All right, let's talk about corporate training. I know, for a lot of us, those words just bring to mind, long days, lukewarm coffee, and a binder full of stuff we forget the second we get back to our desks. Today, we're going to break down why so much of it just doesn't work and explore a whole new philosophy that can actually create real, lasting change. So, let's get into it. Come on, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Those fun icebreakers, the team building games with the marshmallows and spaghetti. You leave feeling super energized, all hyped up. But then, a week later, you realize absolutely nothing has changed about how you actually work. It felt good, for sure. But did it do any good? That's the question we need to answer. And that feeling, that buzz, brings us to our first big idea, what I call the illusion of training. It's that dangerous trap where we mistake all the activity and energy in the room for actual meaningful learning. Now, here's the thing. This takes real discipline. An activity might get people laughing and talking, and that's great. But if it doesn't directly connect to a learning goal, it's not just filler, it's actually disrespectful. It wastes the trainees' time and their mental energy. Every single minute they give you in that room has to count for something. So, how do we make every minute count? Simple. We run every single activity we plan through these three filters. 1. Does it serve a specific goal? 2. Can people actually use this back on the job? And 3. Is the payoff worth the effort they're putting in? If you get a no on any of these, guess what? The activity gets cut. It's that simple. This isn't about being picky, it's the bare minimum for professional training. But see, focusing on purposeful activities is just the start. It builds up to a much, much bigger idea. The goal isn't just to have one great training session. It's to stop thinking about training as a one-off event and start building a real culture of learning. And this just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got that classic tick-the-box event. We send them to training, check. Then everyone goes right back to their desk and it's business as usual. But on the right, that's where the magic is. A true learning culture, where development is just part of the daily flow, where it's safe to try something new and maybe even fail, because that's how we learn. And look, this isn't just on the trainers, not at all. HR has a massive role to play here. They need to turn managers into learning enablers, people who are actively asking, hey, what did you learn and how can we use it this week? They've got to connect training to real career paths, follow up in meaningful ways, and you know what? They have to lead by example. Ultimately, it just boils down to this. This is the whole idea. We're not just trying to build a successful training program, we're trying to build a company that is always learning, always growing. And when that culture is in place, man, even the smallest training session can have a huge impact. Now, to make that cultural shift happen, you absolutely need a fundamental change and perspective from leadership. You have to get them to see training not as an expense on a spreadsheet, but as a crucial investment in the future. Ah, yes, the million-dollar question for every single person in learning and development. We've all been there. A manager says something like, why are we spending all this money on training? Can't we just do a team pizza party? How in the world do you answer that? Well, you know why they ask that question? It's because, for way too long, the impact of training has been invisible. When leadership doesn't see a real, tangible result, of course they're going to see it as wasted money. It's a perfectly logical conclusion. The burden of proof is on us. And this is how we prove it. We stop talking in abstract terms like developing our people. Instead, we start connecting training directly to business outcomes. We're not just running a workshop, we're reducing turnover. We're preventing expensive mistakes. We're building the leaders who are going to hit next year's company targets. When you frame it that way, training is no longer an expense. It's the solution to a real business problem. Okay, so we've got the culture in place. We've made the business case. The final piece of the puzzle is the person standing at the front of the room. It is time to completely redefine the trainer's real job. Here is one of the most powerful distinctions you will ever learn. Push training is the old way. The trainer stands up there and just pushes a fire hose of information at the audience. But adults just don't learn that way. The best approach? It's pull training. The trainer's first job is to create a need for the knowledge, to make the learner thirsty so they actively pull it for themselves when they realize it solves their problem. So, for example, a push trainer might start a time management course with this line. I mean, it's true, I guess, but it is so generic. It's boring. Nobody feels any personal connection to that statement. But a pull trainer? Oh, they flip the script. They start with a question like this. And what happens? Immediately, hands shoot up. People start nodding, laughing, because a real shared problem is now on the table. They've created a need. Now the audience is leaning in, ready to pull the solution, because it's not some abstract theory anymore. It's a tool to solve their problem. And this all points to a massive mindset shift. The egocentric trainer wants to be the star of the show, the charismatic guru. But the problem is, when all the spotlights are on the trainer, the learner is left sitting in the dark. A truly great, learner-centric trainer understands their job is to make the learner the hero of the story. They create a safe space where the goal isn't for people to be impressed by the trainer, but to be impressed by what they discover about themselves. And creating that seamless, easy-feeling experience for the learner, well, that takes a huge amount of difficult, thoughtful work behind the scenes. The best training looks effortless for one reason, because so much effort went into designing it. So if the goal isn't to be a charismatic star, then how do we actually measure our success? This forces us to challenge our most basic assumptions about what a good training session even looks like. We are all conditioned to look for these things, right? A perfect score on the feedback form, a big round of applause at the end. That feels like success. But is it? Or is it just a feel-good metric that doesn't really tell us the whole story? Here's the truth. Sometimes the loudest, most energetic feedback isn't a sign of deep learning at all. Often, the most powerful moments in a training are the quiet ones. That moment of uncomfortable self-reflection. That sudden internal aha moment. That quiet processing is often where real change begins. Which means the real signs of success almost never happen in the training room. They happen weeks or even months later. It's when a learner actually changes their behavior at work. It's when a manager pulls you aside and says they see a real difference. And maybe best of all, it's when you get a message weeks later that just says, you know, that training is still working in my head. That is the real 5-star review. And that's because great training isn't a transaction. It's not a deal. It's not a gig. It is a mission. It's a deeply held belief that people can be better and that our job is to help them on their journey. The ultimate shift is to stop asking, was the training good? And to start asking, how did our people grow? When that becomes the only question that matters, that's when you know you're not just training anymore. You're transforming.